got this HR12 here, and it's been reported with the slow functions. So let's have a look. How slow are they? Let's see first if I'm getting any error codes on the screen. I have no error codes. If error codes grayed out, everything seems to be fine here. Let's try to operate from the cage. Okay, so function seems very slow. So if I go to steer, it's just moving to the left or to the right. And if I go telescope out, alright, that is very slow. Extremely slow. And the drive itself, okay, so drive it's okay. So drive is fine. It's just the functions are extremely slow. But I think the problem is maybe with the motor speed for hydraulic pump. That's an RPM for the pump electric motor. Alright, look, it's all over the place. Okay, so I think so that maybe the problem is with RPM. Let's try again. Let's try to steer. I think what's happening is the motor is running very slowly because it's not able to read the RPMs correctly. Let me try it from the ground controls. Alright, let's try to do it from the ground controls again. So you're going to info, pump, electric motor info, and we have a current speed. So if I push a green button, the RPM is so unstable. It's jumping between 0.24 and 65,000. And I just can hear the motor is running very slowly. Alright, so let's open the cover and see what's happened there. Okay, so remove the top plate off, and that's where my electric motor is. That's electric motor, and it's been hydraulic pump for hydraulic functions. This plug here, the one with the 4 wires, is the speed sensor. The one with the 2 wires is temperature sensor. So I think what I will try to do, and that's where the speed sensor is located, right here. So I'll try to check on the connections just to make sure we have a good connection on the speed sensor, all the cables and pins, and the motor controller is right there. And if connection is good, I will try to test that speed sensor to see if it's any good. Maybe the problem with the speed sensor here itself. The other thing I want to show you, I'm gonna press a green button here. Just listen on the motor how it sounds, okay? You can hear it spinning very slowly. Just remove the plug here just to see if the crimps are looking good and everything's in place, and all that seems to be good. Don't see any problems here. So not sure if there is a problem with the sensor itself. Maybe it's worth trying to measure the voltage on it and see what we're getting out. Maybe that's gonna give us a good idea if there is a problem with the sensor itself or problem is somewhere else. Because this red wire, I should have the power supply on it, and I think this black one is a negative, and the white and blue the outputs. Okay, I got my Pico scope connected here. Okay, that's a Pico scope I'm using. It's a 2-channel input, and I have this hooked up onto my speed sensor here, and the speed sensor should create a square of the waveform. It's two squared waveforms, and the leading edge is gonna determine the direction of the rotation. So my scope is hooked up on a speed sensor here, so I will have a look onto my laptop and I'm gonna try to see how the waveform looks like from that sensor. So if I'm gonna press a green button, I should be able to see the waveform, the square waveform is generated. So you have a red and blue channel 1, channel 2. So I'm gonna press a green button now. The motor is rotating, but it just doesn't look good. I mean, it doesn't look right. A lot of distortion happening on it. So I think something is going on here. So I'll try to see, maybe remove the sensor and clean it and try again. But it should not be looking that way. It's too much of distortion, I think. So remove the speed sensor, and that is all looking good. Doesn't look like there's any damage on it, any problems here. So let me see if I have replacement one to try. That would be nice. Okay, so I got a new sensor in now, and that seems to be a bit better, but it's still not great. So I'm gonna push the green button now. I'm getting this blue waveform correct, but the red one is still not there yet. So I'm not too sure what's happening here, but it's behaving a bit better. So I'm thinking if there is a problem with the speed sensor, or maybe the controller actually distorting the signal. Okay, after testing a number of sensors, I still couldn't get this to work, so I have replaced the motor controller in here. So that's the motor controller for this, the motor, and is responsible to controlling the speed of the motor and making sure everything's running fine. And now it seems to be working fine. Only thing I want to do here is just to show you on the screen how the signal looks from that speed sensor. So I'm gonna press a green button here, and you will see that speed sensor output. Okay, so it's giving you a nice squared waveform, and blue one you can see is leading edge. Okay, and when the motor is not running, one of them goes to 0 and one is going to supply voltage, but that's a bit random. So depending how it's gonna stop, how the motor is gonna stop, they both can be sitting on the supply voltage, or both at the 0 like now. So the both outputs are 0. Let me run again. Let's see. So now the both of them are sitting at supply voltage. So it all depends on how the motor is going to stop, in what position the motor is going to stop. But what I'm looking normally is just to have this nice waveform output. Yeah, so this is the output you should see. Two waves, the blue one and the red one. So that's why the sensor has 4 wires on. So here, so we have this red one power supply, black negative, and the blue and white is output, and output is given this to the waveforms when the motor is running. Okay, so it's all good now. So it's been, that motor controller has been replaced. I'm gonna test the machine a bit more just to make sure everything's working fine. But for now, if I go into motor controller, and if you look on the screen, press a green button, I can see the motor is running fine. So that should be working without any problems. Okay, so it could be misleading at the times, the first fault was the speed sensor, but it's actually the controller that was actually distorting the sensor readings. Just want to show you what's happening on the speed sensor if you measure the voltage with the multimeter, because it's not always possible to see the data with the oscilloscope. So with the multimeter we can have some idea what's going on. So this is 13.3 volts now, is on a red wire, the power supply, and I'm gonna connect this to one of the outputs on the blue wire right now, and I'm gonna press a green button. It's just reading average voltage, about 7 volts. And let's see if there's anything on if we measure AC. 6.5. Okay, so we're measuring on DC voltage, and let's do it again. Green button. Okay, so it's reading half of the power supply voltage because the motor is rotating fast. And on the white wire now, so it's reading supply voltage, and I press the green button. So it's around 7 volts, so it's averaging out because it's running fast. So the multimeter is not able to read that, but it gives you an idea what sort of voltages you should see if you're testing with the multimeter. Okay.